Hey, welcome back to YT Finance, and this is the channel where I went to business school so you didn't need to, and today we are talking about Sofi Technologies SOFI stock and Palantir Technologies PLTR stock. We're going to be going over their latest price targets and price predictions among professionals as well as investors, and we're going to be talking about their latest news updates and what we can anticipate from the future growth from both of these companies and their share price. So for more videos on Sofi Technologies or Palantir Technologies, remember to go and smash that like button right now, comment your thoughts down below, subscribe if you are new, and without further ado, let's just jump right into today's stories. So the first article that we're going to be analyzing today is an article that's titled, Sofi, Do I Think Shares of the Fintech Company Will Make Me Rich? So first off, if you don't know what Sofi Technologies is, Sofi is basically a digital bank where they offer their consumers through a digital app anything they could probably need in terms of financial services and or financial products, and we will mention some of those that they offer to their consumers throughout the video. Right now, the Sofi share price is coming in at $7.59. However, investors and critics who are more negative about Sofi Technologies have a price target of $7, while more bullish positive investors have a price prediction that goes as high as $11 over the next 12 months. So why is Sofi Technologies in the news today? Well, first I want to say that Sofi Technologies is a risky growth stock, so always make sure you have proper risk management in place before you decide to invest into risky growth companies. And Sofi Technologies is a part of the fintech sector that hasn't done very well over the last few months. However, despite the overall fintech sector not performing well, Sofi Technologies has continuously met their financial guidance because of their increasing underlying demand for their financial services and or financial products. Sofi offers a range of various financial products, and now they have over 4 million customers that use their checking accounts, personal loans, insurance products, and auto loan refinancing, along with a plethora of other financial services and products that Sofi Technologies offers. The main reason why the stock price is downtrending, or at least becoming stable and not surging lately, is because of the student loan moratorium. If you don't know, the student loan moratorium is a student loan payment freeze where people who have student loan debt do not have to make payments on their government student loans, and these student loans are also not accruing interest. However, the good news is that Sofi reported their Q2 2022 earnings report, and it caused their stock price to temporarily surge by around 28%. Which is absolutely insane. Now, other bad news came in the form of a Japanese multinational conglomerate named SoftBank, who is a huge institutional investor in Sofi Technologies, and recently they have been liquidating their Sofi Technologies stock, and some professionals even think they could potentially sell all of their Sofi Technologies stock. Now, in our last video, we talked about how SoftBank is not selling Sofi because they believe Sofi is a bad company. Rather, they are selling it because SoftBank themselves are in a financial pinch, so they are selling. So SoftBank is selling their Sofi shares and liquidating it so they can have cash on hand. So as far as Sofi investors are concerned, they should not be focused and fixated on these short-term news updates that are rather negative or the volatile Sofi stock price, because if you are a long-term investor in Sofi Technologies, they still have very healthy revenue growth and they are constantly improving their profitability, and they are anticipated to become profitable in 2024. I'd also want to point out that Sofi bulls, or investors who are very positive about the future stock price that Sofi could be worth well into the future, were right considering that their bank charter, because remember, Sofi Technologies operates as their own bank, and this bank charter has led to a multi-faced enhancement of their fundamentals because it's helped out their financials a lot. Not only has this lowered their overall costs and expenses, but it's also allowed them to attract new customers, which will then increase revenues because now Sofi is extremely competitive. We also have some other acquisitions that have yet to pay off, but they will, and that would be their Galileo and Technisys acquisitions, which are set to pay off massively in the years of 2023 onward by not only lowering overall costs and expenses, but also by increasing revenue. And this is one of the reasons why Sofi Technologies has actually increased their overall 2022 fiscal revenue guidance, which is set to come in between $1.58 billion and $1.513 billion, which is a $3 million increase from what the prior guidance was. Also, in terms of their earnings, for their adjusted EBITDA, which is supposed to come in between $104 million and $109 million, which is $4 million higher than their previous guidance, so this is very bullish and positive. With this new guidance in place and the potential that the student loan moratorium repayments and the student loan freeze could end, this is going to act as a phenomenal catalyst for the SoFi stock price. Even though the student loan moratorium and the student loan freeze could be extended to March of 2023, there's also talk about the student loan freeze and the student loan moratorium ending sooner, where people who have student loan debt will need to start repaying on their loans and interest will start accruing again, which is going to motivate people to refinance their student loans with Sofi Technologies, because Sofi Technologies was originally just a student loan refinancing business, but clearly they have expanded a long way since then. Also, according to their current metrics and forecasts for their overall revenue for this year, Sofi Technologies is anticipating that the student loan moratorium will not end in 2022. They are anticipating almost a worst case scenario here, which is really good to factor that in, because if it ends up stopping sooner, it's just going to cause the stock price to absolutely skyrocket. So in the end, when the student loan moratorium does end, it's going to cause the SoFi stock price and their share price to absolutely ignite, which is why this author says if you can acquire SoFi shares below $10, you are in a very good position. Now, despite this very bullish news, and I actually agree with this author, let's not go overboard and be too enthusiastic like this author, which I'm about to go over. And you all know we've covered this author before. His name is Luke Lango, and I honestly think he is just overhyping this company for no real reason. And this is coming from a SoFi bull. I like SoFi Technologies. I have some exposure to SoFi Technologies. However, my risk management policies do not allow me to invest more than 5% into a risky growth stock initially. But this author, on the other hand, wants to almost go all in on this company because he thinks it's going to surge to hundreds of dollars, and we'll get into those price targets in this video right here. But first, let's analyze his article and his predictions. He says, in the current stock market environment and the current economic uncertainty that we are in right now, fintech companies were anticipated to report very slow growth and low earnings. However, Sofi Technologies brought in amazing revenue and EPS. And this is why we are very bullish and positive for the long-term growth of this particular company, even if the stock price is very volatile in the short term. Now, I do want to quote the article here where it says, and I quote, "Compared to legacy financial giants, Sofi is a lower-cost financial platform across the board. Instead of having 5 or 6 platforms for your banking purposes, you only need Sofi, which provides higher yields on savings accounts, better fees on crypto buying, better mortgage rates, better personal loan rates, and so much more," end quote. And I completely agree with the article on this particular point, because I do think that multiple people have more than one bank that they operate out of. However, Sofi Technologies basically offers anything someone could possibly need from a financial institution, which makes them a one-stop shop. And that's the real advantage of SoFi Technologies, because it differentiates them from other banks such as Wells Fargo and Bank of America. Another point of agreement between me and the author is that we as investors are long-term investors into this company. We are not bullish and positive on the company in the next 6 months or a year. We are focused 5 to 10 years down the road, because we believe the stock price is going to be significantly higher than what it is right now. And this is where this author and I tend to disagree, because he thinks that the company in the next 5 years is going to be worth $200 per share. Now, I think that would be phenomenal. However, I just don't think Sofi Technologies is going to be able to pull those numbers. Maybe $100 in the next 5 or 10 years is going to be much more realistic of a price target and a price prediction, instead of giving people the hope of this stock absolutely exploding and making people a millionaire. That's most likely not going to happen. However, with that being said, this is still a fantastic company overall, and I am personally very bullish on Sofi Technologies. Now, finally, we're going to talk about Palantir Technologies and their PLTR stock. If you didn't know, Palantir is a big data and analytics company that interprets large data sets, and they get to tell the management of that company what decisions to make based upon that data processing. And this allows the heads of the organizations to make very wise data-driven decisions. And Palantir serves both commercial clients as well as government enterprises. Right now, the company's stock price is worth $9.92. However, very bearish naysayers think that the company is worth around $6, and on the high end, some investors think that the company is worth around $20. So which one is right here? Well, honestly, it depends. Palantir Technologies recently revealed a pretty weak earnings report. However, many investors were disappointed, and they were even more disappointed after Palantir Technologies management forecasted revenue that was lower than Wall Street's forecasts for their Q3 estimates in their base case scenario. I also want to quote from this article where they go over the positives of investing into Palantir Technologies, and especially if you are a long-term investor, this is what you need to hear. Because in the short term, both of these companies, Sofi and Palantir, are going to be very volatile. The stock price could fall even lower. However, if you are a long-term investor and you're not going to overexpose yourself, this could provide a good buying opportunity. Sofi Technologies is growing over a 40% compounding annual growth rate in terms of their revenue, and Palantir is growing anywhere between a 25% to a 30% growth rate, which is also extremely impressive. But I do want to quote from this article about the main points of why investors should do their own due diligence on this company. And it says, and I quote, "On top of that, from the report, we also learned that Palantir's business is stronger than ever. The company continues to have a solid balance sheet with over $2 billion in liquidity and no debt. Its stock-based compensations decrease on a quarterly basis, and at the same time, Palantir grows at an aggressive double-digit growth rate even in the current turbulent environment. Therefore, a relatively poor Q3 guidance is something that is already priced into Palantir stock," end quote. And I agree with all of this, except I actually want to make a correction. They don't just have $2 billion worth of liquidity on their balance sheet. They actually have around $2.46 billion worth of cash and or cash equivalents that could be liquidated very quickly, which is very good, and the company has no debt. So from a financial perspective, this company is firing on all four cylinders. And this company is going to become profitable on a GAAP or a generally accepted accounting principles basis at the end of 2025, and that's going to act as a phenomenal catalyst for this company. I also want to point out that Palantir has been in business for almost 2 decades, and they are still growing at a double-digit growth rate. Another thing that I want to say is that Palantir aims to increase their overall penetration into the software solutions market among institutions in the United States abroad, and that's what I really like, because I am more focused on their commercial clients and not so much their government clients, because I think their commercial clients are going to be the thing that pushes them toward profitability. If the high demand for Palantir software continues with new clients, the company is absolutely set, because their commercial customer count grew from around 184 customers to around 203 customers in a very short time frame. The three main problems for Palantir Technologies that critics point out is that the company is not profitable on a GAAP basis, that the insiders are selling shares, and that there is a stock-based compensation problem. Now, we already addressed the profitability problem, which will be solved at the end of 2025, so now I want to focus on their stock-based compensation as well as their insider selling. So let's first start with the insider selling. Alex Karp, who is the CEO, and other insiders have dramatically reduced selling Palantir stock. They were selling the stock when the stock price was relatively high so they could cash in because they didn't believe that the stock was worth that price. However, now that the stock price has corrected itself, this is very positive news. I also want to point out that according to the Q2 earnings report, we also saw a huge decrease in stock-based compensation expenses, which have declined for 5 straight quarters in a row. So going forward, there are reasons for investors to be bullish on Palantir Technologies, even though technically they are trading at a premium according to their PS or price to sales ratio. However, if we take another ratio or another model, technically we can make the argument that the company is undervalued, and we will get to that argument right now. According to the discounted cash flow model that the author conducted, Palantir's fair value price is $11.17 per share as of right now, while the current stock price target and consensus among professionals is around $10.99, so just say $11. Both of these indicate that Palantir technically is undervalued according to their future growth. And I personally agree with analysts and this author's DCF model, because when we look at their balance sheet and the remaining deal value and backlog that Palantir has, which comes in at around $3.5 billion of work that they haven't even even gotten to yet, this is phenomenal news. The company also is expanding right now by hiring a multitude of new employees, which signifies overall strength in the business. So now that we've gone over why you should definitely do more research on Palantir Technologies, there is one more thing that I want to add, and it is bad news. So management projected that the company would grow at a 30% compounding annual growth rate, especially in terms of the revenue from 2021 through 2025, and I do not think that they are going to achieve that growth rate this year. I think it's going to come in at around 25 to 27%, and this is going to really impact the stock price negatively at the end of 2022, so investors do need to be aware of that. But for investors who have a long-term time horizon on this stock with a very low cost basis, if you're willing to hold for the next 5 to 10 years, buying this company below $10 could be a phenomenal bet. So overall, the author concludes, as well as myself, that the company and business is still moving in a positive direction. So for more videos like this one, remember to go and smash that like button, comment your thoughts down below about Sofi Technologies and Palantir Technologies, subscribe if you are new, and without further ado, I will see you in the next YT video.